Alzheimer's disease by Nicole Backer, Brittany Rath, and Nicole Martell. Alzheimer's disease is a chronic neurodegenerative disease that destroys brain cells, causing thinking ability and memory to deteriorate over time. Alzheimer's disease is not a normal part of aging and is irreversible.
Early onset, or also known as familial Alzheimer's, refers to people of any age who have had mild impairment due to symptoms of Alzheimer's. These symptoms might not stand out at first. Common symptoms include forgetfulness, mood shifts, confusion with time or place, coordination problems, and may have difficulty learning new things. Late onset, or also known as sporadic Alzheimer's, will experience symptoms such as severe impairment in memory, processing new information, and recognizing time and places, losing capacity for recognizable speech, and the loss of the ability to eat, walk, and use the toilet without assistance.
Risk factors can be defined as characteristics of the person, lifestyle, environment, and genetic background that contribute to the likelihood of getting a disease. On their own, they are not causes of a disease. The most common form of Alzheimer's is called sporadic Alzheimer's disease or late onset Alzheimer's disease. It accounts for 90 to 95% of all cases. There are many risk factors concerned with sporadic Alzheimer's, which include lifestyle, such as poor diet, smoking, our activity level, mental stimulation, age, which most often happens later in life, environment, and genetics. There does not seem to be a specific gene that causes sporadic Alzheimer's, but a variant of the apolipoprotein, specifically APOE E4. It plays the greatest role on increasing the risk for Alzheimer's. There are 3 other apolipoproteins, E1, E2, and E3. We inherit 2 APOE alleles, one from each biological parent, all which produce different outcomes, but play a central role in making the protein that helps transport cholesterol in the bloodstream. Aside from the risks I've mentioned, APOE E4 is a risk factor because it promotes the accumulation of beta amyloid proteins that cause plaques to form in the brain. Familial Alzheimer's, also known as early onset Alzheimer's disease, is exceedingly rare, accounts for approximately 5 to 10% of all cases, and is caused by an inherited change in one of 3 genes. The 3 single gene mutations associated with early onset are amyloid precursor protein, APP, presenilin 1, and presenilin 2. Each of these mutations play a role in the breakdown of APP and are found on chromosomes 1, 14, and 21. The one gene mutation that you might be familiar with or heard of is trisomy 21. This is Ben, and he has an extra copy of chromosome 21, also known as Down syndrome. Interestingly, the gene that is responsible for producing amyloid precursor protein is found on chromosome 21. Having an extra APP gene will presumably increase expression of APP, increasing the chances of additional amyloid plaque buildup. Therefore, it will speed up the disease. For Ben, this could mean that by the age of 40, he could be faced with early onset Alzheimer's disease. As you can see, genes play a role as a major risk factor.
Normal anatomy of the human brain. When a patient who has a healthy brain has neurons who are constantly communicating with each other through electrical charges that travel down what we call axons. Along with the axons, the brain also has astrocytes and microglia that help keep neurons healthy by clearing away debris. 2 healthy proteins that already exist within the human brain are amyloid precursor proteins, or APP, and tau. The use of these proteins play a vital role in the homeostatic balance within the brain. Later shown in the presentation, you will see how these proteins are solely affected when it comes to the Alzheimer's disease. The disease begins with the first stages of tangles and plaques forming in the hippocampus where verbal and visual memories are stored. The first protein, tau, is responsible for the tangles that are formed in the brain. Tau is normally responsible for providing structure for microtubules. Tau is a normal protein and found in every cell of the body. In Alzheimer's patients, tau changes shape and becomes entangled with other tau proteins. The tangles that are formed block passageways and cells die when nutrients and materials can't be delivered. The second protein, beta amyloid, is responsible for the plaques that are formed. Beta amyloid forms when a normal protein in the brain, APP, isn't metabolized correctly. This process seems to happen in patients with Alzheimer's. Beta amyloid is a sticky protein that clumps together and hardens into plaques that block the communication between synapses. Eventually, the plaques and tangles will spread through the entire brain, impairing all function. The different stages of the disease is caused by the spread of the plaques and tangles. The process of memory loss begins in the hippocampus where new memories are stored.
Plaques and tangles begin forming and move to the part of the brain that is responsible for language. From there, the destruction moves to the front of the brain where logical thought takes place, making problem solving and planning very difficult for the patient. The next part of the brain affected is where emotions are regulated. The breakdown of this area of the brain can cause loss over moods, emotions, and feelings. Next, sensory information processed by the brain is affected, losing the ability to process hearing, sight, and smell. This destruction can cause hallucinations and destroy the ability to interpret senses. The next stop for this deadly disease is where the patient's oldest memories are stored. This is when the patient often loses memory of their family and their childhood. The patient will lastly lose their ability to walk, rendering them immobile. They will eventually lose the ability to breathe, sadly killing the patient. This graph shows the age ranges of Alzheimer's patients currently living in Alberta. It is estimated that there will be a dramatic increase in dementia patients by the year 2030. 65% of those will be women over the age of 65. While research and studies are always ongoing, there is currently no cure for Alzheimer's. There is medication that can help alleviate the symptoms, but having a support system in place is critical in managing this disease.